let's talk a little bit more about sorting, and specifically about the sorted function that we looked at in another video. So let's review what we looked at in this other video. So we had this task of taking a dictionary with a key value pair and then sorting it. And so we did this with the .items function, which remember it takes a dictionary and produces a list of tuples where the first item is the key and the second item in the tuple is the value. And it's going to return that as a list of tuples, and the tuples will be in no particular order, just like the dictionary unordered. So we can then create a new list if we want to sort by the second item. We then can loop over the items, that list of tuples, and create a new list that swaps the order of the tuple. So it's going to take the second element and put it at the beginning of the tuple, and the first element and put it in the second. It's going to pin that to our new list, etc. And keep on going through the list until it has all of them. And then we can sort that list. So now, since we swapped out the order of the tuples, when we use sorted, it's going to sort that list. It's going to look at each tuple and sort by the first element in the tuple, which in this case, since we've swapped out the order, is the value or the number. Okay, so that's what we did before. And that's one way to do it. But here's the thing, we don't actually have to do all that extra stuff by swapping out, creating a new list and swapping the order. We can actually tell Python how to sort the list. So by default, when it's sorting with a sorted function, Python's going to look at the first element if you have more than one element of a thing that it's trying to sort. So it's trying to sort these two tuples. But we can actually tell it to look at the second item, or whatever item, if there were more items in these tuples, and sort by that element instead. So let's look at how we do this. And we're going to look at one way, and there's another way that we'll look at it in another video. This is actually a little bit, it's more familiar, but actually a little bit more complicated to do. It takes a little bit more lines of code. So let's look at this code. So we've got the same thing. We've got our dictionary with the key value pairs, right? We've got that sorted function that is sorting the dictionary with the dot items, which is returning a list of tuples. And in this case, we're doing reverse true. So we want to do by highest to lowest numbers. And we want it to sort by the second element in the tuple, so by the number. So the sorting function there, which we can see, we have this key argument, and we've got a sorting function. So the key argument has a sorting function name, and we can see the definition of the sorting function. And the sorting function takes one argument, which is presumably a list or tuple, something with more than one element in it, and simply returns the second element of that thing that was passed as an argument. Okay, that's all that function does. It takes an element and returns the second thing in that element. Right, so if the item that we're passing as an argument is this tuple with the and to, the function is going to return to, which is a second thing in that tuple. So we can pass this new argument, this key, kind of this custom argument, we can pass it, as we've seen here, key equals some function. So we have this sorting function, and we pass it the name of the function. So that's a new syntax to sorted. We've created a function, and then we're passing the name of the function to key. So what's going on here? What happens when this sorting function runs? When we do sorted, and then what's the sorting function doing when it's being assigned to key? What's happening is whenever two elements in the list are being sorted, so sorted is going through and it's looking at two elements at a time, and it's comparing them in order to know how to sort them. And with this key argument, key is telling the sorted function how to compare them in order to sort them, what to look at in order to decide how to sort. So the default behavior without this sorting function, this is what we saw before in the other video, no, not using the key argument. What's happening behind the scenes here is that the sorted function compares the elements in the list pairwise. So it's taking two elements from our list of tuples that we got from our dictionary, so our dot items, and it's going to compare those two and try to put them in order. So let's say that sorted is looking at the following two items on the list. So a tuple with this and one and the and one. So remember, we have got words and the frequency in the text that we had used as an example, just a small little text. So here's sorted. It's going about doing its job, and it's got these 2 items now that it needs to sort. And it's thinking, okay, how should I sort them? Should I swap the order? Are they in order? Which one is smaller? How do I do this? I don't know how to compare the 2 tuples. Oh, wait, I've got an idea. What if I just look at the first element? So that's its default behavior. So that's a brilliant idea. Why not? Let's look at the first element. So now I can compare this and the way it does it is it will say, well, with the ASCII values and the length and everything, the is smaller than this. So great, I should switch them around. So by default, that's what it's doing. That's what's going on behind the scenes when we don't use the key argument. Now, when we use the key argument with a sorting function that is returning the second element of its argument, sorted's going through, it's doing the same thing. It's taking 2 things and comparing them as pairs to put them in order. So again, let's say it's looking at these 2 items and it's thinking this time, how should I swap out the order of these 2? How do I know what to do? I don't know. Oh, wait. What if in this case, I've got this key argument, let's use the function, let's call that function that the user gave me. It gave me the name, the user gave me the name of a function, so let's call it and see what happens. So it takes us 2 elements. So note that we've just given it the name of the function in the key argument, right? We've left off those parentheses. We're just passing it just as if it was a variable. But when the sorted function gets it, and it comes to deciding how to compare the 2 items, it's going to take those 2 elements and it's going to pass each element as an argument to the sorting function, and it's going to call it. That's when it's going to get called. So sorted is going to take care of the calling. And as we know, the sorted function is going to take this element, it's going to take the tuple, and all it does is return the second one. So in this case, it's going to return a 1, and in the second case, it's going to return a 2. So now sorted has these 2 elements. It knows what to compare, and it's going to compare that element that was returned by the sorting function, which it called, and know that 1 is smaller than 2. So in this case, we don't need to swap anything out. So that's what's going on behind the scenes with this key argument. And that's why we have to define a function that simply returns something. We have to give it in its definition a parameter, a single parameter, and then we return the element in that argument that we want the sorted function to look at, to compare. So instead of what we did before, where we went through, created this list of tuples with the dot items, and then did this whole loop that went through them and switched them out and changed the order of the 8 tuples, we can just use a very simple 2-line function definition that returns the element we want the sorted to compare, and then pass the name of that function as the key argument to the sorted function.